And we are live. Welcome to a very special edition of the Armchair MBA. This is the Four Horsemen. We'll be chopping it up, and we're doing a special recap edition if Joe ever decides to sit down. So let's introduce.
I'm home alone with my two dogs. I'm worried about them. They're out of sight right now. They could be ripping up the house downstairs.
True. So let's introduce our esteemed panel. You got Vinnie, the Brooklyn guy. We got JSV Capital,
hey guys.
Jason, aka the Mohawk, and Joe, aka Babe. Welcome, gentlemen, to
Joe, aka the No Hawk.
Oh,
That's right. And we also known as the Four Horsemen. Want to give a shout out to Jerry for that awesome graphic. Okay, so we're going to start off with those that are watching, those that watch us on the replay. The old podcast, this new podcast, Armchair MBA, we have a special person named Erica Santa Maria, who's been a very, very strong supporter of the show, not just, in terms of watching, but emailing, always sending positive messages. So now it's going to be our turn to send some positive messages back, and just want to give a her grandson is going through a little bit of a tough go. He's in the ICU. He's known as Little Pig. He's a beautiful 2-year-old boy, and I just want to share a quick video of him.
All right, piggy dance. Ding, 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 ding.
boy.
Did it. Dun, 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 dun. Look over here, Pikachu. Dun, 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 dun. Piggy. Look, pig. Pikachu. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
So, we all have kids, and just the thought of a little one being that young and being in the ICU. So for Bryson Santa Maria, on behalf of the Four Horsemen, we're sending positive energy. We're here for you. Erica, we're here for you. And Tutaguri and noi siamo pensando. So we just really are here for you. If you guys want to say a few words either.
Do you know what happened?
He's in the ICU. I believe he's had some respiratory issues. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to give too much, but he's in the ICU, and we're gonna all say our prayers, and we're gonna do. He's gonna get through. I have a good feeling.
Oh, absolutely. God bless him, and God bless his mom and his family. And this should show you, if anything, when people argue in nonsense. If this doesn't show you that 10-second clip, I don't know what does. What we always preach to you guys.
Yep. Yeah. Your children are the most precious thing on this earth. Children are a gift to this earth, and my thoughts and prayers are with you guys. And Little Pig, get better soon. We are definitely pulling for you, brother.
Yep.
And if he's allowed, we'll have him on when he's better.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another quick story, and I don't mean to make it too somber, but we want to celebrate. Life, we want to celebrate our viewers. The old show, I used to get some really long emails from the guy named Kevin. I can't remember the last name. And to be super candid, they were really long, upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 words each, right? But I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I got these emails, and it would be a little difficult to read the whole thing, right? But he had a real big concern for me. He was, I believe, former law enforcement. When I did certain shows, I would have maybe photos up. He would give me advice on, hey, take down the photos. He gave me he was worried about my safety. He would give me how to go through security protocols. An overall nice guy, right? So I get an email, and it's short. And I'm like, what's going on? Something out of context. He goes, oh, this is Kevin Jr. My father passed. I just want you to know that he loved your show, he loved you, and that you made his last days so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something.
So shout out to to both Kevins. So you know, again, listen, that you know, it's part of life. Unfortunately, we're here to support those that need it, and you know, that's why we do what we do. We provide great content. Sometimes gets you away from the hustle and bustle, and hopefully makes life a little easier. So we're going to do a little bit of recap issue. Okay. So first, when an honest opinion, I'm going to go Bay 8th first because he was the longest listener, I believe. When you first heard the NBA Baldwin Man was disbanding, what was your first visceral reaction?
Honestly, I thought it had to do with sharing of the spoils. Like you guys weren't, you know, I thought it could have been like maybe one felt like, hey, I'm driving most of this content and you're just like coming along for the ride. But because normally that's what would break it up.
Yeah.
His
Vinny?
money,
Yeah.
or you were hooking up with his girlfriend, or he was hooking up with yours. Money or women, or one.
Usually the culprit. Vinny?
Yeah.
You and your ex?
No, the NBA Baldwin
Yeah,
Man.
his ex, John Panisi.
I thought it got shut down. Originally, I thought that they just pulled the plug. They didn't
JC
want it.
Capital?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited for, you know, how you guys were going to, you know, develop more programs and get into other subjects and grow. And then, you know, when that happened, it was a shock for everybody. But maybe it grew to where it was going to grow. That was it, you know. Series of all, you know, shows end because they reach a certain point where they've told the story. And so I guess that's where you guys reached. You reached the point where you told the story that was fitting for that program, and it was time to, you know, go in another direction.
Yeah.
So, but definitely thought there could have been more there. But, you know, as you guys and as you were creator of the show, you know, you felt you told what had to be told. So I respect that.
Now, I also, you know, was ended abruptly. I'm not going to get into specifics. Him and I made an agreement that we wouldn't discuss it. I can say there were creative differences, you know, which is okay to say. But then now I'm left here with this channel, right? And I'd be the first to tell you, and I will admit this, I thought the channel was going to die. I was very scared. I was very nervous. You know, imagine you put 100 shows in, multiple hours for each show, on air and off air. So you give up revenue, you give up time away from your fiance, your children, and there's a lot that goes into it, right? So when I was going to be by myself, I was friggin' scared. So Joe, how did you think when your first reaction was? Aside for that, what do you think? What was going to happen to me? Honestly,
Truthfully,
in terms of the show.
But me and you had been like messaging each other for a while. So I figured like, honestly, like, hey, maybe this might be an opportunity for me to get in because, you know, it always seems like it works better when it's multiple people because we all have different opinions and we all like different things. We like the same things, but, you know, so we each might bring something different to the table.
True.
And, you know, people like a wider variety.
You weren't super shocked either. And then you and I were talking, you're right, anyway, and you weren't surprised. If anything, you probably maybe saw it coming and then also were refreshed about the content. JSV, what was your thought? You thought I was going to die in the vine or what?
No, I I knew you were stronger than that. And I knew your listeners or your subscribers really had a commitment to you and also to your partner. So I really thought, you know, the subscribers would go both ways, you know, and they liked your content.
Go both ways, kind of like Vinny?
Kind of. So I knew all along that, you know, you keep those subscribers, they'd be loyal to you, and as well as they follow John as well, you know, and you are, you know, you're a well-rounded guy, you know, with your media content. So, you know, you can have a lot of different people on from different walks of life, and that's interesting to your audience. And so you had a strong following. I wasn't worried about it at all.
Machens, you were getting a little later to the game, but what were your thoughts?
I thought, well, I read about you after the fact when I did the interview with you, but no, you're a capable guy, and I think that honestly, when I first saw that show, I thought he was your guest. I thought I thought you were interviewing him, and maybe it was a small series. I didn't realize it was an ongoing thing. But no, not at all, because you have so much content that you could tap into to have a hybrid channel with everything you do in your life, where some people are just pigeonholed into one thing they've done. You can really branch out. So no, I wasn't surprised at all, and we're trying to carry you through the Four Horsemen. So
Well, I have a little surprise for you.
that was for waking me up and making fun of me.
Now, I have no content on there yet. Obviously, we have to make it, but we're gonna stick with on here and yours for a while. But when it reaches to a meaningful level, I think we're gonna set up our own channel. I already set it up on the backdrop. So to give people some context, right? So I like to be transparent, like to be out there. You build up a relationship, with the viewers and the listeners. So I came out and I did the end of the MBA podcast. I took a lot of shit for it, but literally within the same day or the next day, I did my first episode, which was MBA Button Man is now the Armchair MBA, and I did it via live. What's really critical whenever you rebrand or you do a new venture or that kind of stuff, what you kind of do like earlier on will determine the success of if the show is going to do well or not. And my strategy was to, thank you, Marco. The strategy was to kind of like be true to myself and create like my content that I know I can do, and like kind of not pivot too much, but just kind of get there. So the first one was just me and a live. I didn't get beat up too much, right? So that episode was pretty straightforward. My next episode, I came across a guy that did the Many Saints in Newark, right? So I did it. I did it a little late because it's been out a while. I was like, you know what? Let me kind of get back to what I know, right? So first, what did you guys each think of the Many Saints in Newark?
Brooklyn guy.
What I thought of the movie?
Yeah.
I thought it was a victim of its success from the series. I think if it stood on its own without The Sopranos existing, I think it would have been a much better. People would have said, "Oh, it's pretty entertaining." It was like The Godfather 3. Most people hated it because of The Godfather 1 and 2. You're a victim of your own success. I thought it was okay. The only problem I had really was for the first 15 minutes, you missed what the storyline was because you keep on watching, saying, "Oh wait, that's Big Pussy. That's you're trying to develop the characters within your mind of who they are, and you kind of missed 15 minutes of the movie already doing that." But I thought it was okay. But I don't think you could go anywhere from the Sopranos series. It's like the Beatles getting back together. Where are you going to go?
The Mohawk, I believe, liked it a little bit. What's the Mohawk think?
I did. I liked it, but I had high expectations. And then the only downside of it was that, it wasn't, it didn't have the gangster, everyday gangster life in it. Like I said, I think I touched on this on an episode before when we did our live first. I said something like this before, but they didn't have the truck hijackings, the bookmaking operation, the loan sharking operation, the stealing this, stealing that. They didn't have the whole organized crime feel to it. It was it was a little different than the normal gangster stuff that most people like. But it was okay. I mean, out of a 1 to 10, I give it a 7.
Giuseppe, what did you think?
Well, I like scenes in the movie, but I don't think it kind of like all meshed together well. Like there was good parts, but overall I think it was okay, the movie. Probably a 7 out of 10, I would say.
Well, I want to ask David Chase, why was he focusing on his father had a girlfriend from Italy, and then Dickie Moltisanti, had an affair with her? Like, why was that a big deal in the movie? And that took up a lot of the movie. Like, why was that a part of it? Like,
One other thing that because I watched it 3 times because I felt like, if I turned my head for 3 seconds, I might have missed something. But the third time I watched it, I saw this part where the black guy, Harold was his name, whatever his name is, I'm not sure. He has a meeting with Frank Matthews, the big rich black guy
No,
with Toad Hill.
No? Frank Lucas?
Yeah.
Frank
No,
Matthews.
or is that Frank Lucas or Frank Matthews?
It's Frank Lucas, I believe.
Okay, because you know who Frank Matthews is, right?
You know where he is?
No, well, you don't know where he is, but you know who he is.
Of course. That's why I asked.
He's right. Okay, so Frank Lucas to me was not a big deal. Okay, but anyway, why would he be in the movie? Like, how did it pivot from if he's going to be in the movie and he has a problem with the Italians, like he said he did, he had a problem with the 5 families. Why would you just go to that scene where the guy hands him some money or whatever, says, do you need help? No. Okay. I mean, it's just too many different directions it went in.
Guys, I think Chase did something very interesting too. Chase likes to put little herrings in there. Like Junior Soprano falls on the steps there and then falls in the Soprano series. I think one of the big parts of the Soprano series is when Tony's having a spirited conversation with Carmela and says, Carm, you knew there were other women. Where have you been? You Dickie Montesante's. So I think he wanted to show that there were other women. And I think that's that statement in the series. I think he brought you back to say, these aren't good guys. This is what Tony grew up seeing. Other women constantly. And I think Chase would put little things in to remind you of what The Sopranos was all about. That's what I think.
Interesting. So, the next episode, at that point, the first episode did really well because it was curiosity, what the hell is Tom going to do, right? Then the next show was that one did okay. It was a little too late on the review, but it did okay. Then the third one I went through the top mob channels and what they made, because that's my background. I'm a digital marketer. There's certain tools you can find. It's public, but it's not as well known. Joe, why don't you start off? Was that kind of the right move and within my wheelhouse, or was that being a little petty?
No, I think it was because I think that certain people, you got to level with them. We're not doing this for money. We don't want people to think we're coming on the show and like raking in money. If no one sent me a penny ever, I would still come on the show. This has nothing to do with money with me. I just I came on the show. I was very apprehensive, but then, the people in the chats, man, were so very nice and supportive or whatever. So I look forward to coming on and, getting together with these guys, listening to what they have to say. And of course, you guys, it's like we're hanging out right now. So I'm glad you did that. Puts things more in perspective.
So Jason, what do you think? Because you're sponsor of the show, you're a friend, you have a vested interest of the success of the show. Was that the right move?
Yeah, I loved it. People want to know. That's a popular subject. How much this guy makes? How much this guy makes? That's a popular subject. What's he doing over here? What's he doing over here? Right? I think people liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. People want to know, what are they doing this for? What are these old gangsters doing this for? Obviously, they're in it for money. The gangsters, these guys are doing it because they want to put a book out, a movie out. They want to get paid somehow, get paid 5 different ways, okay? So if you, maybe not you, Joe, you're not a gangster. Neither am I. We do things because, hey, listen, this might be fun. This might be interesting for us. Mm-hmm. These guys have their hands out waiting for the next envelope to show up. You better believe it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I like that Tom shared saying, hey, listen, this is what they're doing. This is what they're pulling in. And I thought that was interesting. I think a lot of people liked it.
Yeah, you know what? Real quick, I feel the same way because with some of these guys, it just looks like a money grab with the Patreon and this and that. And it's like, really? People are paying these guys to what? Hear a video a day before? And it's like big money that, think about it. If some of these guys' Patreon is like $12 or $15, so you mean to tell me if you listen to 10, if you sign up for 10 Patreons, you're going to pay $150 a month to just hear some, hear what we're doing, basically?
Yeah.
So I think that's crazy.
Well, I'm going to give my learning in a minute about when I go to some later episodes. Vinny, off topic. Who do you have for tonight's game?
Well, last night, the baseball game? Last night, by the way, we won. Giants. They almost won the game outright. Gave that pick out. Tonight, the World Series game you're talking about, because there are a couple of college games too. World Series.
Yeah.
I like Houston. I think the ghosts have come. I think Atlanta never wins. I think when you're up 4-0, they were almost celebrating already. And I think Atlanta's shot. I think Atlanta wins it.
Is the Astros going to cheat again?
No. Also a Patreon, man. What are we doing on here? Is it really $10 to $15 a shot?
It's a monthly service.
We could talk about that. Like,
I'm kidding.
No. In terms of the strategy towards monetization, right? Some people with bigger audiences, they do what's called a freemium model. They give it away for free on YouTube, and then you want the good stuff, they'll do a Patreon. People don't do a Patreon when you have larger numbers, right? When you have smaller numbers, you do like a super chat, a cash app, and then when you get a little bigger, maybe you get like a sponsorship. Again, that's a one thing. I never knock anybody on how they go about monetizing your channel, because there's no, you're not begging if you have a cash app. You're saying, you know what, this show costs time and money. If you want to, contribute, you contribute. So at any rate, I thought that was a good episode. It did okay. The next two episodes, I focused.
Excuse me 1 second. The difference with the cash apps and that stuff is you're doing it at your leisure. Meaning like, okay, I could do this. With the other thing, you're like on the hook every month, and it's like a bill. You know what I mean? So
agreed. It's a recurring. Then I got to get back to it. We got to do. I think we should do it together. Then I started the 4th and 5th episode. I'm like, you know what? Again, stick to my lane, because I felt like if I went like overly, in on the mob stuff or trying to be who I wasn't, I thought that wouldn't resonate. But I wanted to get into general interest that I think most guys like, because we're 91% guys on the show, and they watch the show. So the next two were about like cigars and cigar reviews and general business stuff. What did you guys think about that? Was that the right move? Or are you thinking, you know what, Tom, like that's too small of an audience?
No,
I liked it. Yeah.
I mean, I think, certain people like that. So you're not going to always cater every show to everyone, but you could do a little here and there. I mean, brings up people's awareness about certain things, the cigar business. I mean,
Well, what I would do is I would do like the Dave Portnoy style of doing the cigar reviews, and people seem to like it. So I went that. Now, the pivot of all pivots, episode number 6, the 3.5-hour Barolo / Amarone / cigar event live with Vincenzo Bracco. That, I believe, was a turning point of the show. Now, again, with all due respect, because Vinny's our guy now, I thought it was a little bit of risk on my side, because Vinny didn't have a big viewership. And typically, when you go to reinvent your show, you want to go with somebody bigger, with all due respect, so they let people go in.
I understand.
But I did the opposite. I took a risk on Vinny. It did pretty well view-wise, and I think it paid off. So, Joe, what do you think? All bullshit aside, we have this guy on, the mental health guy, the nice guy, the new guy coming on. I thought it was the biggest show in the world, but a little bit of a risk, a little bit. Joe, what was your initial reaction when you saw the guy to the bottom left?
I said, here we go. Another guy, another Goomba from Brooklyn. Another Goomba from Brooklyn chiming in with his stories.
Mohawk?
I thought it was great. I loved it. I really did. And, talking to, Vinny hasn't even, I don't even think he told 3/4 of the stories he has. I mean, he's an interesting guy. He has a lot to say, a lot of lessons to be learned from his stories. I thought it was great, and I can't wait to hear more of that content from Vinnie. So, yeah, great choice, Tom.
Well,
Jason,
before you jump
Jason,
in,
that was the Mohawk, right? Now, Jason, what do you think?
so Vinny, I could tell you I had high because we talked a little before, right? And I knew we kind of had a little bit of a kinship, and I knew it was going to go well. I didn't know it was going to go 3.5 hours well, and develop kind of a lifelong friend. What was your expectation kind of going in, and where did you land?
I was nervous. Because, to keep something going for 3.5 hours, you don't think it's going to be 3.5 hours, and you never know when to pull the plug. You never know what to say when you're interviewing someone. Like, do you go through this like, so listen, it's been great having you on. Thank you for the time. You don't know when to wrap up because they might say, wait,
That's been getting really quickly. You ever watch his show? That's him kicking you off. I don't know if you ever noticed that. The person will be mid-sentence, like, well, the hardest time in my life is. He's like, oh, that's great.
And half the time, my thing is delaying. I don't know. The lips are moving. Then they stop. So I'm ready to talk. And you thought I didn't talk for 5 seconds. And then someone jumps on. But no, I was nervous. Because to me, you were big time. And are still.
Big
but
time.
you were a guy that had
the best market in the world. Right?
No, but you had a big show that everyone loved.
Yeah.
You're a successful guy. And when I did my research, I said, oh, man, you're not just a guy that is on there entertaining people with John. And, yeah, I was nervous. But as it went on, you make people feel very, very comfortable. I'm sure you've heard that before. And FBS is also very talented at that.
We're gonna get there because we're gonna go through each of the iterations, and he's the last show. So I want to get into what you guys had in my guest selection. So Joey Frakes, he thought it might have been a downfall, but he feels we put together a wonderful cast of characters. I don't know if that includes a Mohawk, Joey. You need to let us know. So Vinny, do you ever think you'd be on the podcast with somebody over 35 with a Mohawk?
No.
There's a first for everything.
No, but through the Mohawk, I met Jason. So both of them are great. And it's like, he's like the little brother you never had. And then you got Jason. So
you get the 2 for 1. You get the 2 for 1 with me.
It's like Jason's outside the car waiting for the Mohawk to come back from school.
I'm very jealous of the Mohawk. He gets all the women.
Drop a note if you're Team Mohawk or Team Jason. You got to see who they like more. All right, let's continue. So, all joking aside, we had Vinny on. I had Vinny on. Did well. I think it exceeded expectations. I wasn't sure where to go with the show. A little bit of a risk on my part because what happens is by the first few episodes, if you weren't a cigar guy, you don't care about the YouTube, that could have went sideways. Now, I think one of my favorite episodes didn't do as well, but somebody wrote that we should do more of it. I had Antonio Nicasso on, and if you guys ever see Netflix, he wrote Bad Blood, and he is like the worldwide, like Indragada expert, which is not many out there, and at a Mohawk when I was 10. And, I was really excited about that one. He wrote Bad Blood. He wrote, he's like there's a guy, Gratteri, which is the guy who's the prosecutor going against the Mancuso family, the Maxi trial in Italy. There's 350 people up on trial. It's the largest trial ever against Indragada in history. Gratteri and Nicasso sit on the same panels on a regular basis. So I had him on. I'm not gonna lie, Vin, I was nervous. I was nervous. So I thought that episode did well in terms of the interview and the content, but it didn't do as well as my other shows. Guys, tell me why.
I think the subject matter. Not a lot of people know what's going on over there. Not a lot of hardly any news over here on what's going on over there, and I think that's what it is. I mean, that's something for more of a hardcore, person into that life. Most people, like to hear about it and read about it, but to be into that news, that's pretty hardcore. And that was for the, like I said, the hardcore people. So maybe that's why.
In all fairness, Jason is like somewhat of a mobologist, but he's not like hardcore, right? Where like Joe and Vinny, not that you're hardcore, but you're a little bit more, how shall I say, I think well-rounded in that genre, where, you know, Jason likes what he likes and he goes about it, but then he'll watch sports and other stuff. I think you guys are a little bit more well-rounded. What did you think of that episode, and why don't you think it did as well? Thank you, Tom.
I don't know. I mean, I like the episode. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I really don't know anything about. The way they do things over there, you know. So for me to say that, you know, I'm an expert or whatever, no, no. And I actually think it was good. Obviously, I like watching you, Tom. You're the star of all these shows. So
Thank you.
doesn't make a difference who you have on.
Good point.
It's going to
Thank
be a
you.
hit.
Thank you. And Vinny, what did you think? You know, he followed you. The guy's a worldwide expert, so that's pretty cool. Thinking you were the episode 6, he was episode 7. Like he's like a big deal, like in the regular world, especially in terms of like countries call him in to consult on their organized crime problems. Was it too much of a niche? Well, what did you think, Vin?
I think that YouTubers, the names weren't familiar enough. You know, everyone has heard throughout life here, Francis and Castellano and Gotti. No one has heard of those names unless you're really a mob historian that goes back to Sicily.
Got
So, you know, if you don't hear about someone, you don't know any of the stories about them. So I
Right.
think if maybe a special had been on HBO for 2 years about this thing, then everyone would say, oh, that guy. But I don't think anyone really knew what the deal was. That's what I think. They couldn't swing it over toward American mob. That's what I think. They looked at it as not mafia. And
Got
people have said, like, if you come from there, you're not made here. If you come from there, you're not made here. So it's kind of like it might have well been the Westies.
Isn't that kind of whole point, though? We can argue that Canada, I personally think, in my opinion, I would love people's opinion below. I think the Canadian mob is an aggregate. And Draga that's there, the Rizzutos, the Hamilton guys, the Ontario, etc. I think they're more powerful than LCN in the U.S. What do you guys think?
I think they're, well, are you talking about one faction of them? Like you're talking about the Sicilians or everything that's up there?
I think in aggregate, you take the Rizzutos, which, you know, are kind of the Sicilians or the Sicilians. You got the Calabrians in Hamilton and Woodbridge, you know, but they're kind of linking up with the Calabrians from the other side.
That's right.
They're slowly, surely, you know, chipping away at the Rizzutos. And now there's belief that Violi, who was a Calabrian, son of the other boss Violi, is the underboss in Buffalo, which I think, and I would like to hear what people hear below. I think Buffalo's on the mend and actually rebuilding, and there's a strong evidence of that. So now, you know, Buffalo is historically Bonanno, Buffalo is historically New York. Now, if it's with the Canadians, are they going to come over and maybe get involved with the U.S.? What do you guys think?
The Canadians. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Vinny. No, it's all you.
No, I mean, Rizzuto, they were coming down here taking orders from over here. What are you talking about? The Rizzutos, the guy was doing hits for him.
No, but that was a belief. They say post Messino, and I actually probably should ask Frank Fiordolino. Post Messino, especially when he flipped, they were on their own. And
okay, all right. Yeah.
And then I have to remember when they also killed George from Canada because he was disparaging TG. I think that also do it. And further evidence is when Sal the Iron Worker went over there and a boss got killed by Desjardins, who I think he's a made guy, even though he's French Canadian. The New York LCN didn't do boo.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I think that is, as a whole, I will go with the Canadians because they they're more of a global organization, Androgeda, you know, like connected to the other side. And just to think, you know, here we say, oh, there's not many like recruits, you know what I mean? The pool is getting a lot thinner. Well, how many are over in Italy
Right.
that are struggling, that want to come to America to make money or whatever? I mean, I could imagine thousands of people
Yeah.
want to get involved. So,
hey guys, Tom, I got a 1 o'clock that's coming up. So listen, I appreciate you having me on. I got to run. Sorry to cut short, but I got my appointments. So
yeah, you got to make money so you can support. You could.
All right, guys.
Sponsor the Four Horsemen show.
all right, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll talk
we
to you
love
guys
you,
soon.
Jason. Talk to you
Love
later.
you guys. Bye.
Be good.
So now we got to come up with a new logo. We're not the Four Horsemen. We're Three Blind Mice right now. So let's put that in the background.
And the mohawk. He should have had. See, if he was a smart guy.
Yeah, right.
He would have kept the mohawk on.
Yeah, he should. Yeah.
You
Yep.
know?
Just the top part of him. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, all right. So a little bit about Canada. So I guess Hell's Angels run Montreal. You know, that's what's also I find interesting. Don't get me wrong, the bikers are very powerful here in the U.S. But for some reason in Canada, they seem to be particularly strong. Hell's Angels, I think Pagans, and some other groups. So you know, I thought that was a good one. Then I had a friend of mine, Ramona Rizzo, on, and that episode did particularly well.
He's funny.
Is that the real? Who's the Prince of Park Ave? Who's that?
Let me tell you, I love the Three Stooges.
That's
They're from
Tony.
Bensonhurst.
That's Tony Pizza.
Is that him?
He calls me Vinnie Nervous Breakdown. And thank you, Tony. Every time you give me a shout out, my numbers go up. I appreciate it. And I hope you're doing well, my friend.
Yeah.
I do. I really do hope he's doing well.
Yeah,
I'm
shout
glad to
out
see
to
he's
you,
back.
man.
Yeah, and he called me a rat. So I don't know what made me a rat, but again, listen,
I don't know.
I've been called worse, and it's not true anyway, so it's not a big deal. All right.
We really like the show.
Yeah. So then I had Ramona Rizzo on. Kind of the idea there was she is a good friend. I wanted her to kind of dispel a little bit about her grandfather. And she did a good job. We did as a live, again, a little bit of a risk.
Thank you, Tony.
But it fit the arc, it fit the narrative. And what did you guys think of that episode?
I loved it. That's my favorite of all time.
Well, that kind of did that resonate with you, Joe, a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah, it did. Yep. That's why I asked if she still live, where she lives. So,
yeah.
Because it's just that, I mean, she's just like a Staten Island girl.
Yeah.
They're great. So,
Marco, just Tom at newtheory.com. Reach out to me anytime. Tom at newtheory.com. Reach out to me anytime. All right. So, what did you think, Vinny? Because again, probably resonate with you as well.
It did. I thought it was terrific. She's well spoken. I think she comes across very humble and real. And I thought she was pretty honest. She didn't really hold back. She told you pretty much whatever you asked. I thought she was really good.
Yeah. Now, you guys been doing this a little bit, and I don't think you got your mean comments there. Maybe you did, but the old show is brutal. 25% of the comments had to get
redacted.
Yeah, and so I put together I put together like some mean tweets, if you will, kind of like from the Jimmy Fallon and then top 10 Letterman days. I thought it was a good one. That one did okay. That was more quality over quantity, meaning the viewership wasn't as strong, but the comments and people seemed to like it. Was that a little bit of self-evasive good move on my part? Or you know what, Tom? That's not your lane. Because I really want to hear you guys. I want to hear you guys' analysis along the way because we're going to start getting interesting.
Go, Jay. Go, Joe. You can take it.
I thought it was interesting because that was why I was apprehensive about getting involved with this is because, I just really didn't want that drama in my life. But then after listening to that, it was almost like comical, really, because they're passing judgment on you and they haven't spent 1 minute with you in person. So how do they really know what type of person you are?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So next, okay. So I was really excited to have him on. These shows, both parts 1 and part 2, put them together with Frank I always fuck this guy's name up. Fiorellino, and he was an associate, born from the other side, ran with a lot of the Sicilians, and the guy was a real deal, and it's interesting is I had him on, and the reception for the most part has been really strong. What did you think of the interviews with him? Vinny, how about you go first?
I'm sorry, it was breaking up.
With the guy Frank, the Sicilian mob guy, associate with Bananos. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I think you're excellent at asking questions that reveal other questions. You segue very well. One question goes into a couple of other that they will start talking about that you didn't even ask. And I think that was terrific. One thing that, just to go back, because I just woke up, so yeah. I'm a little shangad. You were talking about Canada and Italy. I know I'm like 10 minutes behind here. Yeah. Frank Cali had told me that he thought if everything was run like Canada, there wouldn't be any problems in the U.S.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that?
He told me that. Yeah. I was at dinner with him. I was at a party, and I knew Frankie from 18th Avenue. He's younger than me, like 6, 7 years younger than me. And we saw each other for the first time, and we saw each other at a funeral, but said 2 seconds, 2 words, and then 10 years later saw each other where we were able to talk. And hey, what's doing this and that? He didn't know my dad had passed away because I lived on Bay 20th. He was on 18th on like 65th, 68th, and we were talking about a couple of guys who just got straightened out. Now, usually you don't talk about that, obviously, but I knew Frankie since he's 8 years old, so. He said, yeah, that guy, he's well thought of. That was his way of telling me he became a friend. And I knew what he meant. So I said, all these problems now with all this shit. This is like in 2005. And he said, maybe, I don't even know. Wait a minute, 50? I'm not even sure. And he said, we should take some lessons across the border. He said we should set up a place at Niagara Falls and have seminars on how to run things like they do. They should come over.
One thing I want to add is what is it that they're doing so different over there? I mean, because truthfully, there's stuff on the internet where you could hear the guy threatening the guy saying, "Look, I'm coming to your house tonight at midnight. If you don't have my 200 G's, I'm going to break your head open. I'm going to split your head open. And don't worry, I know the cops are listening." I heard the guy saying that on the line. Then you got a video of Nick Rizzuto stuffing bands of money in his sock. Is it that they're doing good up there because they're bringing over new people who are unknown to the authorities? I mean, how are they able to keep it, where it's like,
I have a theory about it. I'll get some facts, and I have a theory before Vinny jumps in. Number one, Pat's right. There's no RICO in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why the bosses are not out of Canada, and then give especially what's going on in this country, and then give orders to one person who disseminates everything, either in Canada or be in jail, right? Which is worse. So number one, there's no RICO, right? Low jail sentences also come into play. And I'm going to give you something that just my opinion, right? So when I used to go to Italy a lot, they would say, "Oh, they're from America." So they were either from Canada or from Elizabeth, New Jersey. And Serafino's still on. He might be back at school. He's a teacher, but he's from the same town in Italy as my family. The people that are Italian Canadian, for whatever reason, maybe it's a French influence, I don't know, tend to move forward the Italian culture and be more connected to the Italian culture than Italian Americans do. They typically speak the language. They typically keep the neighborhoods, and I think the same goes with the mob, right? Because they have that connection and fusion. They respect the old world ways a little better. They're not Americanized, and they need to bring people in and have that connection to the old country when they have it. That's why I believe. What do you think, Vinny?
Yeah, I think that the main thing is what you said about no RICO. I think that opens up a lot of playground when there's no RICO. And I also think the guys aren't as young. I think guys are made way too young here to replenish ranks, like we had talked about in the other show. Yeah, you got a lot of 32-year-olds walking around with buttons now. You just aren't mature enough at that age. You haven't been really. How long have you been in life? If you're 32, if you started doing work at 24, 25, 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Is that really an apprenticeship to know how to act and to sit down and how to, I think guys aren't being groomed today. I think where guys, you look at Donnie Brasco, guy would take you under his wing, report to me, you see everything he does. There's no grooming because everyone's afraid. So really, you got a bunch of 34-year-old guys grooming each other, which they all don't know anything. So I think in Canada, guys are older.
Yeah.
I think there's more of that Italy mentality in Canada, those guys, where I think here we became too Americanized here. I think that it became too Americanized. And didn't one of the bosses have a problem with that, where it was becoming very Americanized years ago?
It was actually Color Gambino. That's why he didn't want to.
Right. Yeah. And he ended up being right.
Yeah. Just really quick, we discussed this earlier, and I think it's a good time. If my cat leaves me alone. We're building a community here. The community is important. We may not all be in-person friends, but the community is there, and the community is here to support each other. We want to give a special shout out to Steven. Vinny, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, Steve Gennaro, really good guy who was going through a tough time, and he was on my show yesterday, just in the chat, and I consider him a friend. He knows he can get a hold of me, and I'm sure these guys email anytime. He's a really good guy. We're all together here. Jason's not here right now, but he's very affable guy, and he'd be there for you in a second. You could tell we wouldn't be together if we weren't very similar. So, Steve, listen, you hang in there, my friend. You ever need me, you text me, you get a hold of me, because you know what? Like I told you, look at the little guy that we were just talking about.
Bryson.
I don't know one person that when they're laying there very sick doesn't say, oh, I don't need it tomorrow. They're all begging for tomorrow. So you know what? Just hang in there, buddy. And we're there for you. You just come on here. God knows I'm on 3 times a day. And between all these guys, you're covered. No copay or anything.
Love it. And as Steven, my fellow Paisan, my email is Tom and Theory. You're welcome to reach out anytime, and I know Bay 8 got you as well.
Yep.
All right. So at that point, I did, the Frank interviews. And the first one, it went really well. Then I tried to take a little bit of a strategic risk, right? And this is where I want you guys to give your honest opinion, and people in the comments. I went on Lee Cole's show because he asked me to go on. He was very, very gentle to me. He was very respectful to me, and I had no direct issue with him. He called me a clown, so I just called him Flea Cole. But for the most part, there wasn't any major smoke, right? Went on the show, and he was a gentleman. So I decided to have him on my show. So before we get into the specifics, strategically, Joe and Vinny, was that the right move, or was I maybe a little nuts?
No, I think it was the right move.
Why?
Because one of the things that I've done is not run for office. Yeah. Because you're not the flavor of the month. That doesn't mean I can't talk to you. Yeah. Like you said, you have one guy on opposing views, and then you let one guy explain. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think anybody in life wants the opportunity to do that. So, no, I thought it was a great move. And listen, he was respectful.
Yeah. Very respectful. And I thought he gave a great interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy knows what he's doing, and I'm content to consider him a colleague. I get along with him really well. Joe, what do you think?
I think that, if you're going to have Lee Cole on, then his adversary probably should have an invitation as well, or you know what I mean? Because you really don't want to get into a point where it's just like you're picking and choosing who come on the show, what turncoats you like, and what turncoats you don't like. I mean, you hate rats, but not this one. So I just think you want to keep it like.
At the time, he was feuding with Stax. Well, we had Stax on the old show, and I had Stax on New Theory and talk about addiction. And then I think he's beefing with FBS, who I had on literally like last night. But I didn't really go deep dive to either of them about their beef because I'm not really about that. But that's some good feedback. I do think that there was a certain element of risk, and I'm glad I did it. And I think to an extent, I think it paid off. You know.
And one other thing is, you know, if Lee Cole or whoever it is going to come on the show, as long as they don't get on the show using that, you know, using this platform to bash people or bash their adversary, then I think most people should be welcome to come on and, you know, say their piece or whatever, because a lot of times it's a misunderstanding. You know, like what's driving these guys to go insane? We don't see all the background. We just see them on the screen. But what emails are they getting all day? Yeah. What's going on in their life that day? You know, you see the guy get on and he's pissed. You're like, man, this guy's crazy, but you don't really know what's being done behind the scenes.
Good point. Now, by virtue of the live that was a week and a half ago, and you guys were at the house and they skipped over for a reason. We jumped on a live. That was another 3.5 hour event. That one did particularly well. I think it got about 2,500 views, and not bad for a live. Lives start off strong, but they generally peter out. So the views were good on that. That was drunken event, cigars, that kind of stuff. So, and I was having a rough day because the baby had a fever. I was maybe going to have to cancel. Yeah. Vinnie got there a little late. Joe got there on time. You know, I got to give you guys a compliment, and this kind of goes, you know, like different generations and stuff. Where you guys, you know, we're all kind of part of the same generation. So when I say, hey, I'm coming over this time, I come, right? If you guys ever deal with somebody generally a little younger, you get the, hey, I'm coming. Hey, I'm on my way. Hey, I'm outside. Hey, I'm there. Like Jason gives you like his whole, like Jason gives you his whole, like, where like, so I was like, I'm used to that a little bit. So I'm like, are we still on? Are we not? What's going on? And Joe's like, hey, I'm outside. And I was explaining to my fiance, I'm like, yeah, that's how like guys my age are. Yeah. They show up when they're going to show up. There's no need to text. There's no need to call. And even yourself, Vinnie did no confirmation. All I got is, hey, I'm 15 minutes out, and I got my bottle of bourbon. So it was a little refreshing. I don't know if you guys remember the days where the old school Italians, my mother would be like, oh, I'm going to Maria's house. I'm like, you going to call her? She's like, no. Just walks over, knocks on the door, comes in. It's like expected in Italy. They don't make appointments. They just show up. You guys ever notice that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Back in the day, you didn't have cell phones or anything. You didn't check in. You just said, all right, I'm going to Joe's house. Does Joe know? No. Knock on the door.
Yeah,
no.
But listen, I would love it if you're around the corner. I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But like, if I just knocked on your door randomly, like I know you're a cool guy, but like in current context, it's a little out there, no?
Yeah. Now there's protocols in place, which are unofficial, but still, even with your friend, listen, you mind if I drop by? Right. You just don't do it anymore. We're back in the day, and I'm older than you guys. It's like you just knock on your friend's door. Hey, what's the mother would answer, hi, Vinnie. Vinnie's here. You know, it didn't have to be any Yeah, that's the way it was.
Tom's house was a little different, though. That was like walking up on like Vito Corleone's compound. Yeah. It was like you just don't walk onto his property. Without
it's not big. It's just a cul-de-sac, so it looks a little bigger. You know what I mean?
It looks bigger. Yeah, good one, Tom.
Yeah. Don't say it's big. Then Jocelyn's going to want to build out the back, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. Yes. All right. So that was a formation of the Four Horsemen, which, you know, we're gonna. For those that are watching, we'll probably toggle the segments back and forth between Vinnie channel and our channel, if you will. Part of the reason is, Vinnie, how are you doing on your views? How are you doing on your subs? And you know, you got to be at 4,000 hours and 1,000 subs. Vin, where are you at?
I don't really. Let me take a look. And also, those of you who know Karma, when we were going on live, because we were the only ones with a channel, Tom and I,
Yeah.
Bay 8th Joe didn't want anyone to know he was there.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason, but because he was chatting in there, and then it looks like you're chatting and you're right there. So, and finally I said, come on, you got to show your face. And then he did, and he saw the reception from you guys. So listen, thank you for being so receptive to all of us, but receptive to Joe, because we're trying to get him the guts to have his own channel, and I think it's coming soon, and he'll add so much to the community.
When he's ready.
Let me see now.
I'll add a lot of beef to the community, because there's not enough of that going around.
Joe, hold on. Why he's checking his numbers? Joe, you're a little bit, and I don't dislike it. I like it because I'm the same way. You're not critical of any show. One show that you're uber critical of. You have to pick one. Which is it and why?
Brooklyn guy.
He's an Armchair MBA.
Well, honestly, there's these Four Horses Asses or Four Horsemen or something.
Yeah.
That show is really horrible.
Now, Joe, we're not letting you off the hook. You got to pick one show and you got to dog it.
One show and I got to dog it.
Yep.
Okay. See, it's hard for me to say that because I only listen to a couple of shows that I like. I don't really listen to.
Okay, I'm gonna see, Vinny. I'm gonna give you a little bit of you probably know this. So he's a nice guy, right? He's
no, I'm not a nice guy.
No, you're an amiable guy, right? And I know where you're coming from. If you said to me the same question, it'd be it's not an easy question, right? But that's what the Four Horsemen are about, talking about the real deal stuff. So. How about this? You watch what you watch.
All right, I got one. I got one. Okay, I have one.
Yeah.
And I just want to let everybody know this is not. We don't do any pre-rehearsal.
Yes.
Tom just comes up with these questions and really puts you on the spot, so you got to be ready to go. That's why I always have my pen and pad with me.
Yeah.
The John A. Light Show.
Hold on. No dodging the question, Joe. Go. Good job. Why?
Well, because I feel sometimes when he was, and I haven't watched him or listened to him in a while, but I feel like he kind of speaks to you condescendingly, like he doesn't really think that anyone knows anything. Like he feels like he's the expert and he's going to tell you how it is. And then wait a minute now. We're not that stupid. Maybe there are listeners that you could, say that to and they'll believe it. But for the most part, be real about the situation.
Got it. Now, and I appreciate that, Joe. Now, Vinny, you were, somewhat you're more of a Brooklyn guy than a Queens guy.
Mm-hmm.
But what can you validate about him, A-Light, and what was just total BS in your opinion?
I can validate where if even in a very short period of time, if he was hanging out with John Jr., he had to be capable.
He was,
John,
definitely. I agree.
Absolutely.
100%.
And I think, you're going to love this comparison because you're a digital guy or just PR. I think that John A. Light is very much in the YouTube community like John Gotti was in terms of the America. People have manufactured John A. Light. Everyone has manufactured him. He is who he is because he was the darling of YouTube. He looked the part. John Gotti. America loved him. Why?
Yep.
The suits. A-Light took a page out of John Gotti being brash and being the guy on YouTube, and it worked for him. That's what I believe. But you know what? I don't hate any show because any show, now I don't watch a lot of shows, but if I had to see something, I learned something from them. I learned not what to do in certain shows if they're not great, and I learned what to do in certain shows if they are good. So I really don't think, and I think Tom can attest to this, Joe, and maybe you can too, that there's never a wasted time to watch something. You always can learn from everything you do. I really believe that.
Let me just say one other thing, like with the John A. Light situation, right? So people are a bunch of different things. A lot of people are all different with this, with that. But when you get on the internet or wherever it is, social media, and you tell people that John Gotti was not a tough guy, then what was he? What was he, a negotiator? I mean, what was he, a great guy? I mean, no. John Gotti was a tough guy. That was his thing. I don't think he was afraid of many people, but you're like, oh, he never shot anyone. He never did this. Okay. You try to get the guys that were behind him to follow his lead. How did he manage that?
Good point. Hey, I got a question. Was that really the pizza guy?
I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Got it. Because what happened in the chat and also StreamYard, you can't click through. You need to kind of go to their, they comment, you click through to see if it's really them or not. But I don't think there's a way to do it in the chat. I did have a question for him because he goes by the last name Caruana.
Mm-hmm.
And though they were really big, they're a clan out of Sicily. And he's like, oh, that was my uncle ran Canada, and Alfonso did run Canada. So if that is really him, I'd be interested to know if that's really, if he's part of that lineage, because not many of them are in the U.S. And if so, I just would have some questions. Pizza Guy was talking a lot of crap about Tom. Yeah, I mean, if he was, God bless. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I do my top 10 Tony Pizza's famous Tom bashing. I don't know. God bless him. I don't even know the guy. Hey guys, was thinking about what happened with the shooting Alec Baldwin. Can imagine. Yeah, I mean the Alec Baldwin situation. We talked a little bit about on the other show. Thank you, Jeffrey. Again, now that a little time passed, guys, let's go through it again. Should he be charged? And it should be on the hook civilly. Joe, go first.
The only question I would have is how, I could see if it was like they were doing a scene and he was supposed to shoot this person in the scene and he squeezes the trigger and kills the person. But how did he shoot a camera lady? What was he doing? Twirling the gun on his finger, just, shooting at people? I mean, how did the people that got hit, how did they get hit? I would want to know that information first before I could make a decision on whether he's culpable or not. Now, civilly, he's going to be hit, and he might be on the hook for that, or his company might be on the hook because someone did die. I mean,
well, remember, he's the guy who did it, and then also he's an EP executive producer. So generally, if you're the EP, you're the investor, and I don't know if that's indemnified by insurance. What do you think, Vinny?
I don't know how he can get charged if it was supposed to be a prop. Good. And this guy's had problems before, right? The guy that loaded it.
Baldwin?
No, the other guy. I thought he had problems before. Wasn't there a problem before with something? So, no.
I think, and again, which maybe contributed, I understand there was a strike and they brought in quote-unquote scabs in who may not have had the same level of experience, and that might have contributed to the tragic accident.
That's going to be a big indemnity and a big insurance fall. That's what it's going to be. But no, I don't think anybody get arrested.
It's definitely would never be murder.
No.
It's going to be more of because his intent wasn't to kill someone.
Joe has a fan, $5 pound super chat. Love you, Joe. This will go into the cigar fund. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I got to admit, man, the people that are out there, man, you guys are really good people.
Yeah. Carlos brings a good point. Yep. Carlos brings a good point. The prop master does this. The actors don't. Especially at his level, right? You could argue his A-list, right? Fake ground. So is a prop master on the hook? Let's talk about that a sec.
Well, Tom, even Scotch Wrangler, live ammo should not be present. Why is live ammo there? That would be my question. I have to check my cell phone when I go to places. Why is there live ammo on a set?
But look at what Jeffrey Brzezinski said. fake rounds can still kill you up close. Now, I don't know. I never knew that, but that's something I would think, if that's true, well, that just explains it. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a very unfortunate accident, and obviously it is. But, you got to look at it this way. There's going to be some young prosecutor that would love to make a name for themselves. If you could get a Hollywood star or someone on one of these
crimes, I will say this. I will say this, and I'm gonna and I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but he obviously sits on a certain spectrum of political beliefs, right? Whether we agree with him or don't agree with him, I believe in your right to express those beliefs, right? And I think his daughter got into it with Candace Owens, right? But what I really liked is, I believe they kind of made some like accord and they went on live together to talk about it. So I actually like the fact, I'm going to be really transparent. The right can really trounce this guy.
Oh, yeah.
But they have been, I believe, somewhat respectful, in my opinion. So I think it could be a lot worse. What do you think?
Oh, if Trump was president now, he'd have attorney, whatever, the AG Barr or whatever, he'd have him looking into this very, very closely, trying to come up with something and see what, just that's how Trump is. I mean, he's lucky he's not president right now.
Bring a little pushback on that, but
I have the.
No, I mean, I said Baldwin. I didn't say we're lucky. I said Baldwin is lucky that Trump isn't the president because he'd be going at him.
I'm messing with you. Yeah.
Hey, here are those stats, Tom. 3.3K watch hours.
Okay.
18,000 views.
Hey,
17.9.
And what's the subs?
The subs are 605.
Okay.
I lost a couple after a little tirade yesterday. I think I lost a couple.
So John, JSP and the Mohawk, he had to jump off. He's too much of a working guy. We got to get him more loans so he can take some time off. Mike Francis, very good show. I agree. Let's go, Brandon. I think you. What do you work for Southwest? Brandon Lee is a perfect example. Yeah, that's right.
What happened with Brandon Lee? I know he got killed, but how did he get
very similar?
Very similar.
Yeah. They're going to definitely, there's going to be a Senate investigation, and they're going to say rules are going to change, laws are going to be made now.
But so here's the thing, though.
Where's Adam Schiff? How come he's not getting involved, Adam Schiff?
Yeah. Where's the fire? Why did the fire toward the cinematographer? Was she behind the camera? Maybe he was messing as a joke. Why don't we know the particulars, guys?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right, exactly. Yep.
Adams in the block. Oh, today's election day. Did you guys vote yet?
No, I'm going after we get off. Hopefully, we'll be off by 9 p.m. tonight, or I'll be.
Do you endorse any particular? I'll put him on the spot. Do you endorse any particular candidate?
Me?
Yeah.
I'll put it to you this way. I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for, but it's not Eric Adams.
Can I listen? You know there always has to be a shit stirrer in the group. Well, we know who that is, and I have papers to prove it. My friend worked with Adams in the 88th precinct.
Oh, wow.
And Adams does not like certain police officers.
Yeah. I just don't like the fact.
That's a true story.
I don't like the fact he thinks he's the mayor already. He's going to win, but I don't know. He didn't come to Staten Island.
I have to admit, I typically follow this a lot closer. Typically. I don't know about you guys. I'm like a little sour on politics. I think a lot of us can agree. I think with that. So is it just Adams and Silva, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do the polls look like?
A landslide.
Yeah. 8 points, 9 points, I think,
That's
right?
crazy.
Adams.
This, yeah, oh, big time, yeah.
Well,
But
this is New York is a Democratic state. You're not going to get a Republican in here.
The
If
last
you wore a blue
Republican mayor
sweatshirt,
was Giuliani, right?
yeah, and
yeah.
Pataki, he was the governor, but he's a Republican, so I don't know how that,
Joe, if you put a blue sweatshirt on a pig, they'd vote for it because it's New York.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
blue. It's blue. Doesn't matter who it is.
Tom, isn't the governor of New Jersey Phil Murphy?
Murphy, and he has a pretty big lead over Citarelli.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's okay, Murphy. I mean, I always him, but
Is New Jersey the most expensive state to live in? Is that true?
That's what they said, yeah. But the best place to live in, I don't know. Look at it.
New Jersey and you, perfect together. Remember those commercials? Come to New Jersey, New Jersey. Yeah. You tell your wife, screw Hawaii, we're going to Bayonne, you lucky.
Yeah, Bayonne.
So I'm getting bombarded with calls. They should be working now. Murphy and Citarella are both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Citarella, Jersey's an interesting state. Trump actually did decent in New Jersey. I think he got like 40% of the vote for presidency. He's got business interests here. Although it's a very blue state, will stay a blue state. There's a kind of a subtext of some Italian Americans are starting to lean more right, which makes up about 20% of the population. The old stalwarts, like the old, Irish guys and that kind of stuff, are starting to lean right because we're all getting older. So I think Murphy's going to win. I'm not personally a huge fan of his, to be honest with you, but for a few reasons. But that's just my opinion,
Yeah.
But one thing I will say, with the current president, right? Whether I'm Republican or Democrat, the president that's in office is the man that I would support. Because if that president fails, if Biden fails with all this stuff, with $3.5 trillion, packages and stuff like that, then doesn't it hurt all of us, Republican, Democrat, independents? I mean, so.
I'll tell you something, Joe, and I try to be a little nicer on Tom's show because I don't want to affect his ratings.
No. Listen. I want here's my belief on talking politics. I say this all the time. I will say it every day, even with the trolling. Voltaire says, "I may disagree with what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it." So feel free to have an open forum. If you disagree,
okay,
you're welcome to be respectful in the comments.
Yeah.
And again, I always say you could disagree without being disagreeable.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that people didn't care if the country did worse as long as they got Trump out. I believe that people were willing to take a hit and not really give a damn if we were doing great just to get that man out of office. And I used to love when people would say, Donald Trump's not my president, early on. So you know what I used to say to them? I got thrown off Facebook more than you have hats, Joe. I said, well, listen, I hope one of your family then gets caught in another country and they're threatening to torture them and you need Donald Trump to get him out. If you tell me still he's not your president, God bless you. I just don't go for it. Listen, I don't like Joe Biden, but he is my president. And I'm not going to sit like an idiot and say, he's not my president. He is my president. I'm an American. I might not agree with that he got in, but he's my president. Am I proud of it? I'm proud that we have a president. I'm proud to be an American. So with that, yeah, I am. But do I think he wakes up in the morning trying to hurt everybody? No, I don't. It's a tough job. And he was thrown into a mix here. But I do think that politics has changed. Back in the day, and you're a lot younger than me, Tom is your age. Would you ever have heard someone 40 years ago when you're sitting and your parents are watching television, would you ever heard Sleepy Joe and this guy and the Orange Man? Because they hated each other, but they were respectful. Now it's just gloves off. It's like wrestling. It's really like wrestling now. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And I just root for the country. I don't care. Even if my guy that I didn't vote for does well, Great. I have a son that I have to worry about. I'm not going to say, oh, I can't believe he won. I don't like him. No, I want us to be okay. And whoever it is that does it, that's what I want.
Yeah. I guess you just wish for the best, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry about that. I'm just doing some work stuff, ordering food for the missus and some other logistical activities that you do during a live. So, well, I mean, listen, you know, do you guys think, and again, I think this is a fair question, right? You guys believe that because Trump wasn't a politician, in the long run, did it help him or hurt him?
Hurt him.
What do you think, Joe?
Repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
So Trump wasn't a politician, right? And in
Right.
the long run, do you think it helped him or hurt him?
I think it hurt him because he did things and he said things a politician wouldn't say. And I think ultimately his mouth and not his policies were really what got him in hot water, you know, and like obviously the COVID thing, he messed up with that. But for the most part, if you listen to him, he did come up with some good points, you know, on like trade and how people need, you know, the other countries are raping us. And, you know, I mean, he was definitely for America. But I think he just, his mouth.
Well, what do you think about, you know, I'm going back, you know, 30 years, 40 years. And when you had a discussion at the table at you know, Thanksgiving or Christmas, you had the old Italian guy, basta, you hit the table and like arguing, and like the younger people were more liberal, and they were, but at the end of the day, though, although it got heated, like you walked away going back to your Anisette or going on cigarette break together, and like you agree to disagree. I kind of feel like you can't even have a political discussion right now, regardless of where you land. Do you guys agree?
Definitely.
Yeah, there is, at this point, if you don't agree with one side, you're wrong, not different. See, back in the day, you were different. Now you're wrong. You know, and Donald Trump, yeah, he didn't know anybody anything. He didn't know any favors. He wasn't in all those galas and all those, he didn't know anybody, you know, and he did it his way. He wasn't a politician. And I think it rubbed people the wrong way because he wasn't in the club. You know, he was the outsider. And, you know, listen, I think that he's a very coarse guy. I think he didn't help himself, obviously, but I think that's his thing, to be, you know, he's not running for office, so to speak, you know, metaphorically.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Does anybody believe that I think this is the reason why he lost. I think he pandered to his base too much. His base was voting for him no matter what. We could pretty much agree with that, right?
Right.
So I'll give you an example. I'll give you some examples. So in the African American community, he's the one who helped some wise guys out, but for the most part, there's a disproportionate amount of black men in jail. It's called what it is. Let's be real. It is what it is. The First Step program, or the First Act program, First Step, I believe, was a program that said, you know what, you went away with those Rockefeller draconian laws.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You went away for all these things, doing a 30-year bid for getting caught with a little bit of weed. White guy with rich cokehead got off because he had a lawyer. There's a lot of guys, whether we like it or not, I don't care what part of the aisle you're at, got to spend their holidays with their family because they were out of jail from the First Step program, for the First Act program. He also did a very good job at supporting historically black university colleges. The way the previous administration had it up, they would come every year and be like, hey, let me ask for money, ask for money. It's hard for budgeting. It's hard to plan. He's like, you know what? Well, let's do it the business way. What do you need for the next 4 years? Here you go. He did a great job with that. The urban enterprise zones. I don't know if you guys know about that. If I sell a business and I want to buy a building in Plainfield, New Jersey, I don't owe any capital gains for 10 years. So what happens is I buy a building. Maybe there's a room for a barber shop. Somebody local in the community gets a loan from JSP Capital, hopefully not at a usury rate. Gets a loan, starts his business, and it helps that community. So I felt like he actually did a lot of great things, but he's usually better at messaging and the word out. The message wasn't out there, and maybe the media stifled it, and maybe you couldn't buy enough media to get it out. But in that sense, in my opinion, Tom Levesque's opinion, I thought he got a raw deal in that sense.
Yeah, I think what lost it for him, because it was close, 70 million people voted for him, was his stance on COVID. Because, you know, a lot of people died. And if someone like my friend, 44 years old, died, he wasn't vaccinated. Now, if the president got up there and said, look, man, get vaccinated because, if I come down with COVID, I get a helicopter to Walter Reed. I'm right on the top floor with 10 doctors. You might not have that access to that type of health care. And I think really just he thumbing his nose at this COVID thing.
Yeah.
It really,
Well, you know what Curtis Lee was said? He came to Juniper Park near me about 2 months ago. And there was a band there, and he came around and he said, you know when COVID's going to end? I know he's very colorful. I remember in the 80s. I said, when, Carlos? I took a picture of him. He said, right before the 2024 election, so they could all say, look what Joe did. The world's back.
Exactly, right.
He said, that's what he said. Listen, he said, people think I'm crazy. Maybe I am. If you don't think that a lot of this is political, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I had COVID. I had a blood clot. I could have died. My whole family had COVID. It is legit. And as soon as you take your guard down, a friend of mine's cousin, his wife had it. He got it. 4 weeks dead. So listen, it's real. But and Tom's a business guy. Where does the collateral damage outdo the narrative?
Well, if you really, God forbid, stick to the science, right? So you for those that are at high risk,
right?
And sorry, Vinny, but I know you're not there yet. But medically, it's 52. But really, you're 60 years.
No, but I was with diabetes and all that stuff. I was high risk.
So that's my point. So just by age, 60 and older are high risk. 70-year-old are super high risk.
Right.
And 80-year-old start getting measured, right? So it is what it is, right, brother? So then when you get layered, if you have any comorbidities, right? You have diabetes, you have COPD, you have asthma, anywhere where you may be immunocompromised, right? These are people that need to be protected, and these people should get vaccinated. Overweight, there's a reason why I'm going to lose as much weight as I need to, but I still need to lose more. But part of the reason why I made it a point to lose weight, I have, again, my personal opinion, like Tom Levecchia's personal opinion. I'm not going to say the words because we'll get all of a sudden it'll turn off with Google and YouTube will turn off. But I did not get the VAX.
Right.
In my personal decision, I still may get it, I still may not. But I had a decision. If I got it because I'm overweight, that's the reason. I have no other comorbidities. Well, Tom, you idiot, why don't you try to lose some weight? So probably about 1/4 to probably about 40% to my goal. So unfortunately or fortunately, I still am a little overweight, but that comorbidity and that risk assessment went down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what I don't agree with is across the board, vaccinate, just across the board, Joe, you want to talk a little bit about the city and the vaccination mandate? Let's chat a little bit about that.
Well, let me say one thing real quick. I know a way you could lose 50 pounds right away.
Correct.
Shave your beard. Cut it right off. Go with
I think I should shave the beard. Mm-hmm. We should put it on the side of Jason's head and get rid of the mohawk.
That's not a bad idea.
That's pretty good, actually.
And what about the mob history? Curtis Silva getting shot in the butt, right, from Gotti's guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
But Lexi Johnson said something that that Sliwa is a proven liar, and it's true. I think
he's not Sliwa. He's crazy.
Back in the day when he was just starting out, he faked getting beat up or something. Yeah. Right, I don't know what happened exactly.
I do have a question, and I don't want to. How do I say this? I don't want to be intersectional, but we are Italian American guys. There is Italian American community. One area I don't like is as Italian Americans, we're very divided on politics. And I'm gonna make a statement, and I want you guys to unpack. I've always felt that Italian Americans were historically, the blue collar, union guys, hard hats, lunch boxes, maybe some entrepreneurs, but for the most part, Democrats, right? Now it seems to be going, right. The younger people still maybe left, and the older people going right. However, and there's no wrong answer, and there's no wrong idea, right? However, though, as the Italian American community, I feel like we are fractured, or there's factions of we don't have an Italian American agenda and voice and say this is important, this is important, this is important. We're extremely divided. What do you guys think?
Yeah, but I also would say that the country is divided now. I mean, everything's split. As far as Italian American, yeah, but my grandparents, they were Republicans, and they were, my grandfather was a longshoreman. He was a Republican. Yeah, and I didn't understand it till I got older, the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. So I just think people are divided, whether you're Italian, Jewish. I mean, everybody is, split. And it's unfortunate right now because it's tearing apart the country right now.
I think the difference is now that I'm going to get hammered for this. There's no Democratic Party. There's a Republican Party and there's the Liberal Party. There's no Democratic Party anymore. There's the Liberal Party. It's liberal. You got kids coming out that are socialists. And why? Because think about it. 70, 71-year-old professors now that chair departments, how old were they in 1970 during Vietnam? They were the kids that were protesting. And now what happens is, listen, I'm fair. Listen, if I was 22, Tom, coming out of college, and I could, if I had a candidate that would squash $100,000 of my student loan, all for it. I could give a shit less. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but these guys these kids coming out of college have never seen a good economy. They don't know anything. They know what their teachers and their professors teach them. But do I blame young people for wanting to not have to pay 5 years of student loan back? No. Mm-hmm. So I could very well be a Democrat if I were 19 now or 20. So the world has changed. And that's the thing. We try to keep our families alive, our traditions alive by pretty much adhering to what they believed in. The world's a different place now. The white picket fence, that dream was 50 years ago. If you ask the kid now, what's the white picket fence dream? They'd say, what? They'd have no idea what you were talking about. We're Americans, white picket fence, there's none of that anymore. And the thing is that a lot of us at our age still so badly, we keep our families alive by hoping there still is. If I think my dad's still alive in my heart. If I think that. So we try to make, we do this. What was that game where you could build your own little community remember what it was, where you could build your own family and everything? It was very big about 10 years ago.
The Sims?
The Sims.
My fiance to this day is obsessed with Sims.
Yeah, we try to sim our lives to keep our heritage alive, but we're failing because look at the country. But no, I think that everyone has a right to voice their opinion, like Tom says, and your right to say it is even more important than your opinion, is your right to say it. But unfortunately, when you have news medias like CNN, when a director came out and said, no, we wanted Trump to lose. There's a problem with that. When the news stations that are supposed to be subjective are...
Really quick, though, but Code of the Streets has a good comment. Is JFK a Republican today?
Yeah, probably not.
I think, yeah.
I think so. Well, I think what happened was, or is, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, is let's just say you have a stable belief here, right? And there's kind of a channel. Here's a channel of where beliefs from here to here and here. I kind of think the left moved so far left that if you were a moderate liberal at the time or a moderate Democrat, that you're now seem to be centered or even lightly right because it almost became leftist.
Right.
in my opinion. You know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, where you kind of land. All right, we're gonna wrap it up soon. We had a few other things that we wanted to cover. There was another guy that wrote to me. I don't want to say his name. Starts with an A. I don't know if I'm authorized to say his name, but he was going through a rough go. He says he watches the show, watched the previous show, and helped get him through some tough times. So we shared, and I think it's going to resonate, a really cool poem that his grandfather wrote him, I believe, called The Gentleman, right? A man who is clean, both inside and out, who never looks up to the rich or down to the poor, who can lose without squawking and win without bragging, who is considerate of women and children and the old people, who is too brave to lie and too generous to cheat, and who takes his or her share of the world and lets people have theirs. I consider you both gentlemen. What do you guys think of that? The poem, not my thoughts. What do you?
Beautiful.
Yep. It really is. Yep.
And it's true.
Yep.
Back in that day, probably people believed it. Now it's a stretch, the way people are.
Yeah.
Well,
look, everyone judges me by my hat, so that's why I got to keep different ones.
Well, the thing is, again, and it kind of goes related to MobTube and everyday life. I think people, if they were a little bit more like gentlemen, I think you would win in the long run. So that I wanted to share that. In terms of the shows, we didn't touch on. The last one was the one I did last night, which seems to be doing pretty well with Football Sicilian. I was very happy to have Chris on.
Mm-hmm.
I was on his show. I see, him, like, when he's on live, I'll jump on the show. And I thought it was a great interview, and I learned a little bit more about him. I did get some flack in the comments. I was expecting that. It was minimal, but I was expecting that. But again, I respect their right to share their opinion. I don't delete comments if people notice that on the new show. Was it a risk having FBS on, Joe?
I don't think so.
What do you think, Vinny?
I don't think so. I don't. He's very successful, and with success comes detractors.
Yeah.
If you have a very small channel, how many detractors are you gonna have? So I think that no. I think you do what you do.
Could you name anybody you or we would have on the show that we're not going to get some resistance? Is someone loved by everyone? I mean, no matter who you get on, there's going to be detractors and there's going to be people.
Absolutely.
So it's.
Well, the thing is, I just noticed that. That's why you can't keep everybody happy, right? So I knew when I had Lee Cole on, I was going to get some dissension, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. And there were some people that actually said, you know what? He wasn't a bad guy. And the same with the FBS. I thought I was going to get a little bit more stuff. I think there's just people that don't like people. There's nothing you can do about that,
Now, how was it? Did you take a chance with this because of Lee Cole doing well? You think if you got slammed because of Lee Cole, you would have done this yesterday?
No. I kind of stayed out of MobTube, and to an extent, I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I still find these guys as interesting people. Like Lee Cole's story with his brother, you couldn't dive into that as much as I would like.
Of course.
With FBS, I like his journey about that he was using. And then he, kind of cleaned up. I really agree that this time is going to be okay for him. He's got his, great wife. And, so I just want to hear that narrative. I want to hear that story. And that's what I want to hear, and I think that's what I do well, kind of like sticking to my lane, right? I'm not coming out. I was never a wise guy. I was more of a mobologist. I did grow around some people, did know some people. Being in Jersey as Italian American, you're going to see that. But, I don't want to be anything I wasn't. But I think what I do is I want to learn about people,
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I read fast, so I put them up. So for that, let's pivot back to mob discussion. That we will, Shinebox. Okay. So fresh off the press, Italy arrests 103 in anti-mafia operations. And what's interesting about this one, this is across the nation, not Sicily, not Calabria, not Napoli, but a place called Latina, which is just above Naples, and all throughout Italy, which kind of shows you that in Italy, whether one of the mafia type organizations is expanding and arresting. See, that's the thing, right, guys? If you arrested 100 in New York, you would literally be arresting a whole entire family.
Yeah.
There, it's like a pimp on the ass. So,
Right.
of what you guys know, what is your thought on organized crime in Italy, and how does it differ versus here? Joe, you go first.
I just think it's just ingrained because I think what an American mobster, like, I don't know what their reasoning for getting into the life would be, but like in Italy, I think it would just be more than just money. You know, like, I guess it's just your family's involved with it. It's just how it is. You know what I mean? Not to say that there's reasons that you would get involved in these things, but I think I just think the reasoning for getting into it is different between here and there. I mean, money always rules, but you know, I mean, they just seems like they're born into it over there. It's all around, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that really with the mob in Sicily, where it started and all that, cultural differences, you know,
Right.
it's with Calabria and all that, the children are taught something different. I think if you're in a mob family there, you were taught to be a mobster. Here, your father wants you to go to college, so to speak. It's not like it used to be. If you notice, there aren't a lot of sons now that follow the fathers in the mob. These are a lot of outsiders. It's less family oriented. And I think in Italy, your family for generations have been gangsters. I think that's the difference.
Vinny, when you were on the streets, right, what was the composition of American wise guys versus Italian American wise guys?
Italian American, where they were born in Italy, or their
They were
parents?
born there, not maybe, yeah, because a lot of them, born there but live here now.
Oh, okay.
Versus American.
20%.
Do they act? They act differently than the American guys?
A little more serious. A little more, not as, a little more serious. They were the guys that were a little quieter, and you knew they were dangerous. You didn't have to have a story that they were dangerous. You just tell they were dangerous. There's like some people, you walk in the room and they take over a room, and you know that's the womanizer. Well, yeah. You know that's the bad guy. And I think that they just really were a little, because they were used to keeping it under the vest. You got to remember, if you came from Italy and you came here, your parents lived in Italy, so you saw that demeanor.
And Mustache P says, like, a lot of them didn't like the zips, quote unquote. Why do you think, Joe?
I honestly, because they were coming over here. It's like, do you like someone coming on your block and getting into your business? I mean, it's like look at what we're doing here. I don't know, what do you call this genre on YouTube? Okay, whatever it is. When new people come in, right away people feel threatened. Oh, they got to attack this person. I think it's just has to do with pride. You know, we don't want these people coming over here to our place. I mean, I think it's just pride and ego.
I always thought also, Tom, from Italy, they were much more overtly violent. I think that was a lot of it too. The American mob wasn't as overtly violent, and I think that, all the jokes, oh, these Goombas, these Mustache Pete's, these Zips. I think America thought that they would come in and like change the structure of what the mob was about, And if you're comfortable and you got a guy coming in that would take someone's head off, and listen, they'll take a politician's. They don't care. There were some rules here.
Yeah.
In Sicily, they didn't care. They'd get the police chief, his wife, and even that, the American mob said, "Whoa, that's, we're tough, but it's a little too much, isn't it?" And they just had that code of we will destroy everything in our path. And I don't think the American mob was like that. A little more Americanized.
I'm surprised that it wasn't more blowback when they killed Borsellino and Falcone in Italy. That they didn't go after the Sicilians harder here, even though they weren't necessarily involved. I talk about it all the time. When Mario Cuomo went to Sicily, they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And supposedly, there's two theories. One, which is I think is bullshit. They said his protection was a little better than they thought. Bombs don't protect.
No.
The second is I think the Americans called it off. The Italian Americans, they called it off. And also, they were going to go after Giuliani, like Totorina and those guys were going to go after Giuliani because their thought process. Their thought process was, hey, let's show these guys that you can't, wouldn't take on the Italian state. And then the Americans, you too, they're going to kind of poke the bear. But it's the American gangsters that supposedly talked them out of it.
You know what I also think was a difference at the American mob? The American mob was multicultural. You had the Jewish, right? In Sicily, that wasn't happening. And I think that was something also. I think Sicily looked at America as the minor leagues. I think they looked at America as, well, we started it. We're Italy. This is where it originated from.
Yeah.
And I think when they came here, they didn't speak the language. Everything is a vowel at the end of the language. And I think that to deal with people from Italy, it wasn't what you were used to dealing with, and you weren't comfortable with it. But yeah, it might have well been Russians and mob or Chinese, whatever. It was almost like two different mafias, even though it went under the mafia. Italy, much different than here. Much.
Well, I'm going to go ahead, Joe.
I was just saying, where did Frank Cali fit into this? Because he was American, but he sure wasn't acting like an American.
He was very close to it. They loved him. That's what put him on the rise. He was very respected at 18th Avenue. And he was family, obviously, but he was very respected. He was the conduit between them, and they had a good one that was liked on both sides. He was very respected on both sides of the fence. Usually, you have one guy if he's good with Italy, America, or America, Italy, kids stand. This guy was good on both sides of the fence.
Yep.
Good point. And I think there's a lot of learning there too. I always thought I wasn't sure why the Americans didn't adopt the best from there and the best from here, and then kind of more. That's why I think Canada appears to be, somewhat stable, if you will. So just some updates, what's going to be going on with the show. We're going to continue with the Four Horsemen pretty frequently. It's going to toggle back for now between Vinnie Bracco's channel, The Brooklyn Guy, and this channel here. For those that have not subbed to The Brooklyn Guy, please subscribe to The Brooklyn Guy. And it's going to sound crazy. Go back and watch some older episodes. He needs to get his watch time up a little bit. What happens is he gets monetized. He gets the ability to do super chats. And there is more flexibility in the program when he does his 4,000 hours and 1,000 subs. So please sub.
Thank you.
And then please take a moment to watch some old videos. And let's get him to 4,000 hours and let's get him to 1,000 subs.
Thank you. And I will be having a soprano on my show, not a singer, one of the cast members from The Sopranos. I'll let you guys know when, probably within the next week or so. You'll get a kick out of it.
That'll be great.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Cool.
And then just some updates. Shout out to Jeff Nadeau. I'm a big Barstool guy, so I'm excited about that. Vinny kind of connected us. We'll be coming on for an Armchair MBA interview.
Great.
I'm going to be having RJ from Black Handprint Mafia on. I'm really excited about that. And a few other surprise guests in the queue. But I'm going to mix it up. We're going to do some lives, the Four Horsemen. Hopefully we'll get the Mohawk back on if he comes on. And then maybe he can talk Jason coming on. Yeah, we have some cool stuff continuing. Joe, what do you got going on?
Whatever you tell me to do, boss, I'm there.
I love it. I love it.
Whatever
Joe's
And shout
riding
out
down.
to Jeff Nadeau. I met him for the first time yesterday, 2 days ago, actually. Good guy, and yeah.
I mean, we got to show for him. He's in the Rough and Rowdy boxing tournament for that. Finn Freak, thank you for the compliment on behalf of the Four Horsemen. We appreciate that. Carlos, where is he? Carlos Lorenz Muniz, good guy. He put the link up for Vinnie Bracco, so you can use that link.
Thank you.
Good dude. Let's just work together as a community. Let's keep it tight and do what we can. Yeah. So it looks like we're gonna wrap it up. I'll give the final words to Giuseppe. You can give the final words before we close down.
I just want to say thank you to all the listeners for the support, and yeah, thank you very much, man. You've made this a lot easier for me, and I'm excited to come on and interact with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. I salute. Appreciate you guys checking in. We'll be Four Horsemen on behalf of Vinnie, Joe, Jason, and the Mohawk. We're out.
All right, Vinnie.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.